You know the feeling. You walk into a room feeling fine, but by the time you leave, your mood's off, your head's heavy, and your energy's gone. Sometimes it's just one conversation, one message, one person, and suddenly you're carrying weight that's not yours. It's not stressful, not exhaustion, it's something deeper. It's an emotional drain, mental clutter, toxic pressure from the outside leaking in, and if you don't protect yourself, it becomes your normal. Let's be clear, this isn't about incense or mysticism. This is about control, mental clarity, energy boundaries. And there's a timeless philosophy that shows us how: Stoicism. Forget the fluff. Stoicism gives you the discipline to filter chaos, the awareness to stop absorbing other people's negativity, and the strength to build emotional shields that actually hold. You don't need to meditate on a mountain to protect your peace. You need to act with purpose in the middle of life's noise. In this video, you'll learn how to spot the silent leaks that drain your power, how to raise your vibration by cutting the right things out, and how to hold the line day by day with calm, unshakable focus. This is protection. This is clarity. This is Stoic. Like the video, subscribe to this channel, and share it with someone who's been silently running on empty. Let's get into it. 1. Your vibration shapes your reality. Think about your favorite sports team. When they step onto the field with confidence and clarity, something shifts. The crowd feels it. The opponent senses it. Even before the game begins, there's momentum. Silent, invisible, but undeniable. That's not magic. It's a mindset. It's the force of inner control projecting outward, shaping how the world responds. You have that same force inside you. Whether you know it or not, you're always broadcasting something through your posture, your tone, your decisions. And the world, it mirrors back exactly what you send out. That's why your internal state matters more than you think. Not in some vague spiritual way, but in the way a man's presence walks into a room before he says a single word. If what you carry is doubt, fear, and resentment, the room contracts. If what you carry is purpose, calm, and self-respect, the room expands. It's not charisma, it's alignment. The Stoics understood this long before the world gave it a name. They didn't talk about energy the way we do now, but they lived it. Epictetus was born into slavery. He owned nothing, not even his body. He was beaten, used, discarded. But what he did own was his mind, his choices, his responses, and that was enough. That's why his name outlived emperors. That's why his words still move men 2,000 years later. Because his internal state, his vibration, if you will, wasn't shaped by his chains. It was shaped by reason, discipline, by courage. That's what people felt when they heard him speak. That's what gave his life meaning in a world that tried to take everything from him. Now back to you. When your life feels off, when people treat you like you're invisible, when the world seems to test you at every turn, ask yourself what you're projecting. Not through your words, but through your being. Are you walking through life with resentment in your chest? Are you stuck in negative self-talk, doubting your own decisions? Are you absorbing everyone else's chaos and calling it your personality? Because here's the truth. You don't get what you want. You attract what you are. And what you are is what you repeatedly choose. If you carry fear, you'll pull in things that reinforce it. If you carry blame, you'll meet more situations that justify it. But if you choose clarity, calm, and control, even in chaos, you shift the entire playing field. So how do you do that? How do you raise your internal frequency without sounding like a self-help cliché? You start by stopping. Stop engaging with people who drain your focus. Stop scrolling past your edge of frustration. Stop arguing in your head with people who aren't even in the room. Then start replacing. Start your day in silence, not stimulation. Start lifting something heavy, physically or mentally, before the world lifts your attention away from what matters. Start responding instead of reacting. These are Stoic actions, not theories, and they recalibrate your energy without saying a word. What you carry builds your reality. Walk into every room like it's a test of your alignment, and when you get it right, you won't need to demand respect. It will echo back to you naturally. Because the world doesn't just listen to your words, it listens to your presence. If your presence is scattered, angry, or weak, the world will reflect that back tenfold. But if your presence is calm, focused, and rooted in what you can control, you become immovable. Your job isn't to chase positivity. Your job is to become solid, quiet, certain. That's what high energy really is. It's not noise. It's depth. It's knowing who you are even when the world tries to tell you otherwise. So stand like a man who remembers his power. Choose your frequency like a warrior chooses his stance. Let your mind become a fortress, and the world will respond to its strength. That's not theory. That's Stoic philosophy, applied. 2. Low energy destroys in silence. For the Stoics, self-awareness wasn't optional. It was the first duty of any man who sought strength. Seneca pressed this point again and again. Know yourself. Not as a motto, but as a weapon. Because what you don't see will control you, and what controls you silently will destroy you. That's why recognizing the early signs of energetic collapse, the invisible kind, isn't just smart, it's survival. You might not even realize it's happening. The fatigue creeps in slowly, it lingers. No matter how much sleep you get, the weight doesn't lift. There's a hum of anxiety in the background, but it doesn't scream, it just pulls. Then there's the disconnection. The things you used to enjoy now feel distant and dulled. You don't even hate them, you just feel flat. These are not moods. These are warning signs. Silent alarms from the inside signal that your energy is under siege. Think of that one coworker. The one who's always complaining, always negative, never satisfied. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, but it does, because after every interaction with him, you feel a little more cynical, a little more tired, a little less motivated to keep pushing forward. That's how low energy spreads, not like fire, but like smoke. Slow, subtle, but still suffocating. Most men won't talk about this. They'll power through, grind harder, numb it out. But pushing past the warning signs doesn't make you tough. It makes you blind. And blindness on a battlefield gets you killed. Stoicism isn't about ignoring weakness. It's about seeing clearly and then acting with control. This kind of energetic collapse affects every level of you. It starts in the body. Stress hormones rise, sleep quality drops, your immune system takes a hit, muscles tighten, headaches creep in. You feel like a machine that won't start right, but can't explain why. Then it moves to the mind. Your focus slips, your thoughts get noisy. You replay the same conversations, you second-guess simple choices. Then comes the emotional fog. You stop connecting, you get short with people. Small things irritate you, and yet you can't find the fire to change anything. That's not just stress, that's a system shutdown. The Stoics would tell you, return to control. And control begins with recognition. You don't need to solve the whole system in a day. You just need to stop the leak. Take inventory of what's draining you, not what you're doing, but who and what you're doing it around. Be honest about the spaces that dim your clarity, the people who shift your mood for the worse, the habits that feel like escape but only make you weaker. From there, apply discipline. Cut screen time after dark. Create boundaries with energy drainers. Don't match their chaos. Reduce input. What you consume, you become. Build strength into your day before anyone else gets a say. That means early movement, time in silence, simple, high-quality food, cold showers, focused breathing. These aren't trends. These are tactics. They work because they bring you back to your center, your internal ground, the part of you the world doesn't get to touch. And when you restore that, something shifts. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady. You start hearing yourself again. You reclaim attention. You respond instead of react. You don't wake up with dread, and you don't carry everyone else's mess like it's yours to solve. This is how a man protects his power, not by roaring louder, but by removing what weakens him quietly, by refusing to let low energy become the default, by guarding his fire without apology. No banners, no speeches, just clear, consistent action. That's Stoicism in motion, not a quote, a way to live. And that's what it takes now more than ever. The world is loud. Expectations press in. Negativity has unlimited access to your mind if you let it. But when you live with awareness, with discipline, with intention, you don't just survive it, you master it. And it all begins with paying attention to what you no longer feel. That numbness, that flatness, that's not a weakness. That's your call to war. Answer it. 3. Signs of energetic drain. Epictetus said it best. It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgment about them. Distractions don't drain you because they're loud. They drain you because you let them in. Every time you react to noise, every pointless headline, every unfiltered opinion, every drama you didn't ask for, you scatter your focus. And when a man's focus is scattered, his energy bleeds. Not all at once, but drip by drip, until there's nothing left for what truly matters. You've felt it before. You're doing everything right, eating clean, sleeping okay, hitting the gym, but you still wake up foggy, still feel restless, still carry this heaviness you can't shake. The usual fixes don't work because the leak isn't physical, it's energetic. And if you're not tuned in, you'll keep chasing surface solutions for a deeper problem. This is where most men get stuck, not because they're weak, but because they're unaware. The signs are never obvious. You don't notice the shift in real time. It starts with mental noise. Too many open tabs in your mind, too many things unresolved. Then comes the emotional fatigue. You start avoiding people, not because you dislike them, but because your capacity is shrinking. Tasks that used to take minutes now take an hour. You can't focus. You get irritable without knowing why. You begin to forget what used to excite you. Even rest feels like effort. This is what energetic drain looks like in real life. And it doesn't show up like an injury, it disguises itself as your new normal. That's what makes it dangerous. Because when a man accepts exhaustion as identity, he stops fighting. He loses the edge. He numbs out and calls it stability. But numbness is not peace. It's surrender. The Stoics didn't build strength by ignoring signals. They trained themselves to notice them early, to cut distractions before they turned into dysfunction. And that's the key. Not reacting to everything, not answering every message, not jumping every time the world rings a bell, because each of those tiny reactions chips away at your energy. And energy isn't endless. You don't get a refill by default. You get it by choice. If your mind feels noisy, start by taking back your environment. Audit what you let in. Your news feed, your conversations, your calendar. Cut what clutters, sharpen what matters. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being precise. A man's clarity is his shield. Without it, every distraction becomes a wound. Next, redirect your focus with intention. Build systems that stabilize you. Early wake-ups, breathwork, journaling, time in silence. Don't wait until you burn out to act. Recovery is harder than prevention. Set boundaries, not to shut people out, but to keep yourself whole. Real boundaries are built from clarity, not resentment. And don't confuse stimulation with energy. That caffeine high, the constant background noise, the endless scrolling, they're not fueling you. They're masking fatigue. The only way to recharge is to go inward, to ground yourself, to sit with your own thoughts without needing them to entertain or distract. That's where the reset happens. The modern world profits off your distraction. Your job is to protect the asset, the mind that leads, the presence that commands, the energy that sustains you. That's not a motivational quote. That's your responsibility, because no one's coming to organize your life for you. No one's coming to clear the noise. That's on you. And if you ignore it, the cost is clarity. The cost is power. Start small. One distraction cut is one step back to strength. One conscious breath is one moment reclaimed. One no to nonsense is one yes to peace. That's how men rebuild. Not in big declarations, but in daily restraint. Quiet power, clean choices. The drain is real, but so is your ability to seal it. Not tomorrow, now. Because nothing outside you is stronger than the discipline you choose today. And the man who learns to guard his energy is the man who walks through fire without being burned. 4. Cut the leaks before you burn out. Take a hard look at your career. Is it aligned with your values? Or is it a constant source of pressure that leaves you feeling hollow by the end of each week? Now examine your relationships. Do they ground you, or are you walking away from every conversation a little more drained than before? And finally, be honest about your internal dialogue. Is it the voice of a commander, focused, calm, determined, or the voice of a saboteur, always whispering that you're behind, not enough, or falling short? Most men burn out not because they're doing too little, but because they're giving too much to the wrong things. They're bleeding energy from open cuts they pretend not to see. Leaks don't always look like breakdowns. Sometimes they look like they are busy with the wrong mission, or constantly being around people who never refill what they take, or letting your mind spiral every night with loops that go nowhere. You wake up tired, and that tired becomes your baseline. You start lowering your standards. You call it surviving. But what you're actually doing is running on fumes. Energy is currency. Every task, every conversation, every moment of attention is a transaction. If you're not getting anything back, or worse, if you're losing your clarity, confidence, and calm, you're making bad investments. And just like money, unmonitored spending leads to debt. Not financial debt, but mental, emotional, even physical. Eventually, the interest compounds. And when it does, the bill comes in the form of burnout, chronic fatigue, broken focus, and lost direction. Think of your energy account as a high-security vault. You don't hand out the key to anyone who knocks. You don't leave the door open overnight. You protect it, you monitor it, you move with precision, not guilt. That's not selfish, that's intelligent. That's stoic. Because a man who can't defend his own space will always be at the mercy of someone else's chaos. Epictetus reminded us to ask one thing before we act. Is this within my control? If the answer is yes, we own it. If not, we let it go. The same applies to your energy. You control who you spend time with. You control what conversations you tolerate. You control whether you allow your work to become a trap instead of a tool. But it takes self-honesty. It takes sitting down and drawing hard lines. What you allow, what you don't, and what needs to change now. Start by naming the leaks. That project no longer aligns with your goals. That friend who only calls when they're in crisis. That habit of reliving the same argument in your head every night. Each of these things may seem small, but they are pulling gallons from your mental reservoir. You can't outrun that. You can only fix it by stopping the drain. Then, make cuts. You don't need to burn bridges, but you do need to close doors. With grace, with calm, with finality. And as you do, reallocate that energy toward what strengthens you. Deep work, movement, silence, building things that matter. Shift your attention from distraction to creation, from endless input to focused execution, from pleasing others to honoring your core. No one else will protect your time. No one else will enforce your boundaries. No one else will question how much of your life is being spent on things that weaken you. That's your job. And it starts now. Not when things fall apart, not when you hit the wall, but when you finally choose to respect your limits. A stoic man doesn't wait for permission to act. He scans the field, seals the leaks, and fortifies his line, quietly, consistently. Because he knows the enemy isn't always loud. Sometimes it's that small voice that says just one more time to the people and patterns that keep bleeding him dry. When you cut those leaks, what you regain isn't just energy, it's clarity, direction, and the quiet power of being fully present again. That's not just balance. That's how men take their lives back, one boundary at a time. 5. Don't feed the dark voice. What you tell yourself every day, you start to believe. And what you believe, you act on, even if it's a lie. If the message on repeat is "I'm not good enough," you'll find ways to prove it right. You'll pull back when it's time to push. You'll hesitate when you should speak. You'll let your energy rot behind a smile that says, "I'm fine." But inside, you're bleeding. Not because the world told you to quit, but because your own voice whispered it first. That voice, the one that questions every move, doubts every win, replays every flaw, it doesn't need to shout. It only needs to be repeated. Quiet, constant, relentless, until your entire system begins to follow its script. That's how belief becomes a cage. Not through violence, but through repetition. It shapes your posture, your tone, your decisions. It strips away your fire, one thought at a time. Even Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrestled with this. You read his meditations, and what you find is not a man who had it all figured out, but a man in constant battle with his own mind. He wrote not to preach, but to remind himself, again and again, to fight the pull of weakness, to reject the dark voice, to return to virtue, discipline, focus. That wasn't a one-time fix, it was a daily fight, and that fight is still ours. When that voice gets loud, the Stoic doesn't argue with it. He doesn't feed it more attention. He interrupts it with action, with silence, with sharp clarity. Because sometimes, the strongest move isn't shouting back, it's changing the room. Changing your breath. Changing what you let into your mind. A toxic loop can't survive in a new environment, and your environment isn't just physical. It's what you listen to, what you read, who you follow, how you speak to yourself when no one's listening. You shift your energy when you stop accepting every thought as truth. Not every idea belongs to you. Not every impulse needs to be believed. The Stoic filters what enters. He challenges what lingers. He replaces what weakens. Not through affirmations plastered on a mirror, but through real control, real movement, real discipline. This isn't about becoming positive, it's about becoming clear. When the dark voice says you always fail, you don't need to scream back. You breathe, you move, you prove it wrong through what you do next. When it says you're not enough, you don't wallow. You get up, you finish the task, you train, you clean, you call a friend who makes you better. The thought breaks when action enters. You can also practice stillness. Step back from the noise, put your phone down, go outside, touch the earth. Realign your nervous system with breath, stillness, and gravity. This is grounding. It's not just a wellness trend, it's an energy reset. And you need it when the mental loops get too loud. You don't need to figure everything out. You need to stop feeding the cycle. Space creates clarity. Clarity creates momentum. You want your energy back? Stop wasting it on phantom fights in your head. Stop feeding ghosts. Start feeding reality. The weight you carry in silence is real, but so is your ability to move through it. You just have to stop giving your power to a voice that was never on your side to begin with. A Stoic man trains his mind like a soldier trains for war, with repetition, with readiness, with ruthless honesty. If a thought weakens you, it has no place in your command center. Cut it, replace it, redirect it. Your mind is not your enemy, but if you leave it untrained, it becomes one. The dark voice isn't stronger than you, it's just older, more familiar. But every time you act against it, it loses ground. Every time you hold the line, you build new muscle, quietly, permanently. And that's how you win, not in noise, but in control. Not in reaction, but in resilience. That's how real strength speaks, not loud, just clear. 6. When you drift from yourself. Disconnection isn't laziness, it's a misalignment. The remedy isn't more hustle, it's reconnection. Reconnection with your own values, with silence, with earth. You can feel it when it happens, that subtle drift. Like something real inside you has gone quiet and everything you do feels a little more hollow. You keep moving, but the meaning thins. It's not burnout, it's not boredom. It's the slow erosion of direction. And it happens to men who stop listening to themselves. Picture the successful entrepreneur. Well-dressed, well-known, well-paid, but inside numb, not broken, just distant. He's chased everything the world told him mattered, but something's missing. Then it hits him. The fulfillment never came because the mission wasn't his. He wanted to create, to paint, to build something human. But he traded that for applause, and the applause went silent. Now he's left with numbers, not purpose. His disconnection isn't a weakness. It's proof he's been living someone else's idea of success. The Stoics wouldn't tell him to chase motivation. They'd tell him to return to alignment. Because clarity doesn't come from the outside, it's rebuilt in silence. You have to retreat from the noise long enough to hear your own mind again. Not the fear, not the pressure, but the part of you that remembers what truly matters. That's not luxury, that's survival. Because when a man forgets what grounds him, he becomes reactive, confused, unanchored. You don't fix disconnection with more motion. You fix it by stopping, by recalibrating, by asking hard questions. What am I actually building? Who am I becoming through my choices? When did I last feel fully alive, and what was I doing? A man who doesn't audit himself gets lost in someone else's path, and that's how quiet misery sets in, disguised as productivity, dressed as responsibility. Stoicism teaches us to return to first principles. Your energy is too precious to waste on pretending. You don't need a new job or a new city. You need to reconnect to the fire that once made your life feel real. That means cutting the noise. That means being alone without being lonely. That means walking into nature, not to escape, but to remember. Because nature doesn't care what car you drive or what title you hold. It responds to stillness. And stillness restores clarity. You want to feel strong again? Take a walk alone. No phone, no music, just presence. Let the world shrink back down to sky, earth, and breath. This isn't abstract. It's a neurological reset. It's a nervous system repair. It's what your overstimulated brain has been begging for behind every scroll, every distraction, every craving. When the body slows, the mind returns. When the mind returns, the man realigns. Disconnection also speaks through neglect. You stop doing the small things that once grounded you, writing, lifting, calling people who lift you up. You start to drift into patterns that don't feel like you, but you keep going because stopping feels harder than continuing. That's the moment you need to act. Not with force, but with intention. You don't need to overhaul your life. You need to make a single strong move back toward what matters. That's how momentum is born, through one decisive correction. You protect your energy not just from others, but from losing yourself in the fog. You don't need everyone to understand your path. You just need to remember it. Because once you forget your direction, you start mistaking distractions for destiny. And that's how men waste years. Not because they're weak, but because they never paused long enough to check the compass. So do it now. Pull back, sit in the quiet, listen to what you've been avoiding, and instead of running from it, face it. Not with guilt, not with shame, but with strength. A man who can reconnect with himself in silence is unshakable when the world gets loud again. He doesn't need validation to move. He doesn't need clarity from the outside, because he's built it inside. That's not passivity. That's real control. And that's what it takes to stay aligned when everything tries to pull you away. 7. Touch the ground to rise again. Grounding restores what chaos strips away. When the world speeds up, when your mind fractures, when the edge creeps in, you don't need more stimulation. You need earth. Real, physical, solid earth. Remove your shoes. Step outside. Let your bare feet meet the cold grass or the warm sand. You're not escaping, you're recalibrating. There's a difference. One is running from reality. The other is anchoring back into it. In a world flooded with distraction, grounding is rebellion. It cuts through the noise. It returns your nervous system from fight or flight back to neutral. You don't need permission to pause. You need presence. And presence doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from feeling again. Feel your breath, the weight of your body, the sun on your skin, the subtle sound of leaves moving in the breeze. That isn't poetic, it's tactical. Because the man who can fully return to this moment cannot be shaken by the next one. High performers understand this. Athletes, soldiers, operators. They don't rely on hype. They rely on grounding. Kobe Bryant didn't just master the game. He mastered himself. He practiced mindfulness. He trained to focus. He kept a warrior's mind by connecting deeply with his body and breath. That's not soft. That's stoic. Because in the storm, calm becomes your edge. And calm comes from contact. From breath, from repetition. The modern world overstimulates the nervous system until it snaps. Notifications, noise, endless screens, your system doesn't get a break. And without breaks, you lose precision. You get irritable. You forget how to sit still. That's why grounding works. It's not spiritual fluff. It's a hard reset. It flips the switch off on the stress response and brings you back into control. And the best part, you don't need anything but time and intention. Walk in silence, cold shower before the day begins, 10 deep breaths between meetings. These aren't luxuries, they're lifelines. You don't need to wait for burnout to make a change. Build a habit of grounding while you're strong, so you stay that way. Train like a machine, but recover like a warrior. Still, beware, fully here. This is how you protect your energy without having to fight the world. You step back, not to retreat, but to realign. You find stillness, not because you're weak, but because it sharpens the blade. Most men run until they collapse. The Stoic walks when others rush. He breathes when others break. That's not inaction. That's control. Do you want your focus back? Stop chasing clarity in chaos. Find it in cold air, firm ground, deep breath. Let nature reset your system. Let simplicity strip the weight of mental noise. If you can't think clearly, it's because you haven't stopped long enough to breathe clearly. Your mind follows your body. Lead it well. Start now. One grounding habit at a time. Make silence part of your routine, not a rare event. Make breath something you command, not something that controls you. Make nature your ally, not an escape hatch. And when pressure hits, you won't scramble, you'll stand, because you'll know how to return to the center without fear. Stoicism was never about removing yourself from life. It was about engaging with it from a place of strength. Grounding is how you rebuild that strength, not someday, but now. Because when everything feels unstable, touching the ground is the most powerful move a man can make. Not flashy, not loud, but unshakable. 8. Draw the line, hold the line. The Stoics practiced detachment, not from people, but from the illusion that your peace depends on pleasing them. You can care without collapsing. You can love without losing yourself. You can serve without being drained. That is the discipline of boundaries. And boundaries, when upheld, don't make you distant. They make you dependable. Because a man who knows where he ends and others begin can stand firm, even when the world pulls. Seneca wrote often about the danger of being entangled in other people's chaos. He warned not to let someone else's fire burn down your house. Not because you don't care, but because your clarity is more useful than your collapse. He urged us to stay in our lane, not out of apathy, but to stay effective. When you're always available, always saying yes, always responding, you become less present, less sharp, less you. Modern life turns this pressure up. Your phone doesn't rest. Your inbox keeps growing. Everyone wants a reply, a favor, a piece. You start believing that saying no makes you selfish, that protecting your space makes you cold. But the truth is this: no one respects a man who abandons himself for approval. People follow strength, and strength doesn't shout, it sets limits. Boundaries are not walls, they are shields, and every shield has a purpose: to keep what's vital safe. Not hidden, safe, so you can show up fully when it counts. But if you leak your time, your attention, your energy, trying to meet everyone's needs, you'll arrive empty when your moment comes. That's the cost, and it's too high. Real boundaries are built in quiet decisions. You don't need a dramatic exit. You need clear direction. You need to know when to disengage, when to stop explaining, when to trust that your silence says more than their noise. This isn't cruelty, this is clarity. And clarity protects your nervous system from living in permanent alert mode, where every demand feels like an emergency. To reset that system, start at the root. Reduce the mental load. Say no without apology when something misaligns. Carve out blocks of time without screens, without notifications. Replace constant output with periods of recharge. Walking alone, cold showers, simple breath work. These are not rituals, they're recalibrations. They bring you back into your own body. They remind you that your worth is not measured by how fast you respond. A Stoic man doesn't seek to be needed. He seeks to be useful. There's a difference. Need drains. Usefulness empowers. You become useful when you're rested, when your mind is clear, when your purpose is not buried under other people's urgency. And that only happens when your boundaries are firm and non-negotiable. This is where most men struggle. They confuse compassion with compliance. They mistake guilt for virtue. But guilt is not your guide. Reason is. And reason tells you this: no one wins when you abandon yourself. The people who respect you the most will be the ones who know where your line is. And the ones who don't, they were never for you to begin with. So draw the line, then hold the line. Without drama, without guilt, without needing to be understood. Because the man who knows what he stands for doesn't need everyone to stand with him. That's not isolation, that's power. That's Stoic energy, quiet, anchored, untouchable. Boundaries are how you remain calm when others panic, grounded when others reach, focused when others scatter. They're not about pushing others away. They're about pulling yourself back into alignment. So you don't just survive the noise, you cut through it with purpose, with direction, with strength. And in a world that constantly asks for more, your greatest act of rebellion may simply be this: protecting what keeps you whole. 9. Fuel the machine right. Your body is not just flesh, it's a precision machine. And like any high-performance machine, what you feed it determines how it runs. Food isn't just fuel, it's signal. It tells your system how to perform. Clarity or confusion, calm or chaos, strength or fatigue. What you eat, what you move, what you consume, these things either sharpen the blade or rust it. And for a man who wants to lead, build, and endure, there is no room for rust. You feel it when you eat garbage. Bloated, sluggish, scattered. That foggy mental haze doesn't come from nowhere. It's your system trying to burn through trash for energy and failing. Add in no movement, 5 hours of screen scrolling, a night of shallow sleep, and by morning, you're not a warrior. You're a prisoner in your own body. It doesn't start with burnout, it starts with neglect. But it's not just the food. What you feed your mind matters even more. What kind of media are you scrolling through? What conversations are you having? Who's filling your space? People who sharpen your edge or people who drain it? What you absorb becomes what you believe. And what you believe dictates how you show up. If your daily diet is noise, comparison, fear, or outrage, don't be surprised when your mind mirrors it. The machine doesn't run clean on poison. Now think about your beliefs. The internal script you let loop without challenge. I'm behind. I'm not enough. I'll fail again. These thoughts aren't harmless. They're low-grade toxins, invisible but persistent, and over time, they shape your identity. Not because they're true, but because they're repeated. A man who doesn't audit his thoughts becomes a slave to them. A Stoic rewrites the script with clarity, not emotion. He questions what doesn't serve. He upgrades what makes him sharper. Your habits are the inputs: what you eat, how you breathe, when you move, where you rest. You want clean energy? You need clean habits. Do you want a presence? You need structure. You don't need perfection. You need a system that removes friction. Prep simple meals. Walk every day. Train your body with consistency, not violence. Cut the mental clutter by having a rhythm to your day. The less you decide, the more you conserve energy for what matters. And when chaos hits, as it always does, your system doesn't crash because you've built it to last. You've fed it clean. You've trained it hard. You've filtered what enters your mind and removed what drags it down. That's the work no one sees. But that's the difference between men who break and men who bend, between those who fade with pressure and those who sharpen under it. This is not a motivational speech, it's maintenance. You don't wait until your car breaks down to check the oil. You don't wait until your body collapses to hydrate. You don't wait until your mind spins out to disconnect from toxic input. You do it every day, as a practice, as non-negotiable self-respect. Imagine your system like a fighter jet, sleek, efficient, built for precision. Now imagine pouring sugar in its tank, flying it in turbulence non-stop and ignoring the warning lights. That's what most men do to their bodies and minds. And then they wonder why they feel lost, angry, exhausted, numb. You don't need more stimulation. You need recalibration. You need grounding, rest, nourishment, and clarity. Get sunlight on your face before checking your phone. Breathe deeply before you speak. Train your body before it becomes your prison. Remove the processed junk, not just from your meals, but from your media, your conversations, and your own thoughts. Everything you consume either strengthens or weakens you. And every day is a vote for the man you are or the man you're becoming. So choose as it matters, because it does. Clean fuel, simple routines, strong thoughts. That's how you protect your energy, not just from the world, but from the slow erosion that comes from within. This isn't about diet, it's about discipline. Discipline is what turns men into machines that don't just survive, they last. Every moment, your energy is either being protected or drained. And every decision you make, what you eat, who you speak to, how you think, how you move, determines which one it is. This isn't abstract, it's real, it's daily, and it's within your control. The Stoics taught us that mastery begins inside. When you take responsibility for your mind, your body, and your environment, you reclaim your power. You become the one who chooses what gets in and what stays out. You stop absorbing negativity like a sponge. You stop letting low vibrations cloud your clarity, your strength, and your direction. So be deliberate. Ground yourself when chaos strikes. Set firm boundaries without guilt. Feed your body and mind what they truly need. Let go of what drains your focus and return to what restores it. Protecting your energy is not about retreating from life. It's about engaging with it from a position of strength. This is not something you do once. It's something you practice, like breath, like movement, like discipline. The more consistent you are, the stronger you become. And when you make this your way of life, you stop reacting and start leading, quietly, intentionally, powerfully. So now it's your turn. What drains you? What grounds you? What habits protect your energy and which ones leak it away? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might be the spark another man needs to reclaim his own strength. If today's message resonated, don't just remember it, live it. Build your daily armor. Reset when needed. Hold the line. Protect your energy like your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does.